Aperture.
I moved to Europe in '93. I was in Naples, in Italy first. Then I came to France, where I studied art in a Bourges Fine Art School. I have studied art before in Nablus, in West Bank in Palestine. I have my diploma there. Then I moved to Europe. So I was talking about Bourges, where I did fine art, the fine art school. Then I moved to Paris, where I settled, and for many years, as long as the borders were easy to cross or was possible to cross between, to enter, to get back to Gaza, I was visiting my place like every year, but since 2006 it became quite impossible to move in both sense. Yeah.
And you continue to live in Paris now?
Yeah.
Full-time, working
Yeah.
as a full-time artist?
Yeah.
So you've selected some earlier works
Yeah.
before we come to talk about what's on the wall. Do you want to start?
I made a selection of works, some of previous works that maybe marked more or less, or more than other works, my practice or my work until now. Maybe we start with this group of works in which they are not photographs or done as photographs as a goal. It was most of them, they are questioning the photography as medium and the way of presentations or ways of presentations. Most of these photographs even have been done by others. I asked others to do, or I recycle these photos, I download them, some from internet. Some as I said, I ask others to do, then I use them to make these works. For example, for this series titled Watchtowers, I asked a photographer from Ramallah, young photographer, to take pictures of military Israeli watchtowers in West Bank. And I present them the same way as the Beaker they did in their documentary style photography, where they documented the industrial European heritage through series, kind of topology, some of them like water tours, fabrics, etc.
And what year was this? What year did you make these?
In fact, in 2004, they were a huge retrospective of Beaker's work at Centre Pompidou in Paris. And when I saw one of the series, which was about water tours, I have been struck by the similarity between these water tours and some kind of military Israeli watchtowers, which has this cylindric forms, concrete. And in that day, the idea came to make this series, which was not easy because I cannot go myself, and even I asked somebody to do these pictures. For him, it was also not easy, although he was on site and can. But it was not easy to use. For example, my first idea was to do exactly as the Beaker did with the chamber, this big camera, and etc., etc. But it was not that easy because these military constructions are not easy to go close. You cannot install this heavy material and stay just close and take your time. You could be shot, or you could be just you cannot do them. So he has to to use zoom, very large zoom, taking photos from far or passing by car, etc., etc. The idea, in fact, then I discovered that it was not necessary. It was not the aim to do exactly that, like the visuals, but this impression that when you look to these pictures from far, as happen often with the people when they come to the gallery space, when they see the pictures, the first thing they think about is this is Baker's work. But when they come closer, they discover that it's not, because photographs are not that perfect as Baker's work. Some of them are blurry, some of them are like flu, and we tried with this young photographer to do as much, to respect as much as possible all the criteria that Bakers composes to themselves, like frontal photographs, symmetry, indirect light, etc., etc. But it was not possible to do, because he cannot photograph at any time, in any place, etc., etc.
And at this time, were you really making photographs? Because I know from the other works that you're going to show that you were a painter, you worked in multimedia, and so this work actually, before you really started using a camera yourself as a principal tool.
Yeah, I did other series, but as, let's say, adopting this photographer behavior, but all of them, it's more closer to documentary style than other things. Works.
And just to be clear, these are Israeli military towers around the edge of Gaza, in Gaza?
There were some, and still some, around the edge of Gaza, but these are very far. And if you come to a certain distance, it could be really dangerous. You could be shot. In West Bank, these watchtowers, they are in many places, and sometimes very close to inhabitant places, Palestinian places, in between villages, and also alongside the apartheid wall in West Bank. This city, which is kind of in the same, it functions on the same principle. There is always kind of ambiguity between what you see or believe to see or understand in the pictures and what they are in fact. So for this work, it happened during the bombardment in Gaza, end of 2008, beginning 2009, where many hundreds of houses were being destroyed. So I think, how can I talk about this? How can I evoke this in the work? And the idea came to present these houses as real estate agency, where I studied the language the commercial language of these shops. I went around the city and looked how they.
You went around Paris?
Around Paris, and also in some announcement and paper announcement, etc., etc. And as in the Watchtower series, I had to find someone in Gaza who would be able to do this job, to take photos, because also for me it was impossible to go to Gaza. So he started to photograph these houses and to collect also informations. All the informations in the announcement are real; they are not really fictive. So even concerning the dimension of the house, how many rooms, bathroom, etc. And the description is totally commercial. The only thing on which it's different or differs from commercial announcement, that there is no price. I couldn't put price. And the other thing on which I also hesitated a little bit, the number of inhabitants, people living or were living in the house, because some of them were even they died.
But you could have got a price. this? I mean, presumably these are privately owned and there must be exchange of property.
Yeah, but in fact, what was hard in this work, I was afraid to be that it become humoristic, which is not the case. And in the same time, I didn't want it to be kind of dramatic. So just these houses presented like this, and this gap which could happen when people look from far and they think that they are looking to a real estate vitrine, and when they come closer, they discover this reality.
And you displayed them in a window.
This
like
was in, I think in Australia, was in a group show, and they put really these announcements on the front door of the museum. And the whole day people were stopping and looking to these announcements.
And was this a commission, or you just do this?
No, many, I have really very few commissions in maybe two in my own picture. All the projects I initiate myself, they are my own. This is, let's say, one of very recent works. Also in the same how we said idea that you see kind of familiar way of presentation or representation like real estate agency. Here you have wallpaper where the patterns are taken images I download from internet, and they are representing events from world news, wars, revolutions, aircrafts, military aircrafts, ISIS video images that we saw Abu Ghraib in Iraq, etc., etc. Some of them, most of them are recent, and this work really, I think, I never worked on how we said, according to event or something happened, then I do something about it. But this work has been mostly intrigued by the Charlie Hebdo events in Paris in 2015. Yeah, maybe it's too long to explain about it, but I thought that the world became crazy, and for the first time I felt that we are invaded by images from every side. You see on Facebook, you see in the news, and some of them are real, some of them are fake. And besides Charlie Hebdo, many things happen. Some of them, they take the first lines in the news, and many of them, they just forget, they have been just seen, or we just noticed one day and then they disappeared. So there were many people. So,
Also, as with the last work and this work on the walls here, you're dealing with sort of macro geopolitical issues, but you're dealing with very ideas of home and this very domestic, wallpaper being a very domestic.
In fact, because my work is dealing both with world issues and also intimate and personal works, and sometimes, like in this work, they can meet too. Between this domestic wallpaper and what it presents, what we have as idea of wallpaper should be, or these patterns of wallpaper, and these new patterns, and there is always this back and forth between what we see and what it is really.
I should say, you're welcome to interrupt as we go along if you've got questions. I should have said that at the beginning, but please feel free to interject.
This is maybe one of, for example, of how I work or my practice of photography. using photography not as goal, but how can I make interpretation based on photography, and like in this very personal work in which I am paying a tribute to my brother who has been killed by the Israeli soldiers in the very beginning of the first uprising, Palestinian uprising in '87. But this work came maybe 25 years later. I did just after, maybe for a few times after his death, I did maybe 1 or 2 portraits of him. I tried to express this, my feelings about this event in paintings, etc. But as a conceptual work, this was maybe the first, since that this is the first work I did about him. So
based on
his wedding album, photo album, the day of the wedding. So I kept these negative. I had no idea when I took these negatives with me to France. I had no idea what I'm going to do. My first goal was just to preserve them. And one day we had a discussion about friends. We are talking about, it's too maybe many details, but the idea was to, in fact, the day where he has been killed, that morning I was preparing myself to go to do some sketches on the seashore in Gaza. It was in winter, but it was a sunny day, and I found it encouraging to go out and to maybe make some drawings. But Fridays, this was really maybe the second week of the uprising, which lasted maybe 6 or 7 years. So nobody knew that time that it will continue and it will lead to what happened after. So Fridays were become days of confrontation, because after the Friday prayer on the mosque, many people gather and start throwing stones and Molotov, and soldiers come and throw gas, bombs, real bullets or plastic, I don't know. So, and what he did, he take my block note and he draw soldiers shooting. You know, he was like
an artist also.
Somehow. But I didn't know who, if it was me or another brother who came and erased the drawing, because we military soldiers, they still in town. You know, you can be stopped and it could create problem for you, that why you would throw this, etc., etc. You could. I think was the reason. But after what happened, I kept that drawing, which was quite invisible, but only the traces on the paper, the white trace, as we see here. And so from this comes the idea how to represent or to present these photos through hand carving. I did about 60 drawings. I scanned the negatives on like A3 format, and I put the carving paper, the etching paper under and I draw on the image. So when you take up the image, the print, you have the traces on the paper this way.
Do you mind asking how your brother was killed?
He was throwing stones as many young person. I was just near him, and I think
he was shot.
He was shot. So in fact, these photos has been contrasted on purpose, because we made kind of accentuation of the details, because in reality, from maybe 1 or 1.5 or 2 meters, you see only white paper. But when you come closer, or you have to play with light to discover the details.
Another kind of, I mean, the word that comes to mind I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about, maybe more about this work, is a kind of homesickness, that a lot of your work expresses a kind of homesickness in a way.
Maybe.
It's not what's on your mind, obviously.
Maybe I didn't think about it like this, but maybe the photos I did, photos we will see later, maybe they express this kind of homesickness, if this is really the idea, but not when I did them, but after years, maybe also the fact that I cannot go there, these photos take another dimension, different from others that I did later. These photos, because they are representing something which has become inaccessible for me. So they have different value from others, or I don't know how to explain this.
Yeah. And there's drawings in this exhibition which, correct me if I'm wrong, they are relatively recent drawings, but they're based on your memories of your home in Gaza when you grew up as a child.
Yeah, in fact, these drawings have been triggered by the idea by this project, and before to start working on it, before leaving to US, it was important for me to find a way how to connect with this part of my life, with this part of my family, the cousins. So I find that drawings was the most appropriate way to get to connect with this issue. In fact, drawings were always the space where I can think about work, or kind of space of reflection, more than finished works. Some of them they can be shown as artwork, let's say, but most of them they just they kind of work, place of work.
I understand.
Work space.
A drawing is when you reflect, but when you're making a piece like this, you're concentrating on the execution.
Yeah. It's drawing for me. It's kind of thinking too.
Yeah. What is this?
This is another work, which is more collective than the work we are just seeing. It's also about, and as in fact, both works come of make part of many works I did about the idea of disappearance, about death, about disappearing in a political context. Other works also dealing with this idea of disappearance, being present and absent at the same time, also in the social context, as works we will see later. Here we have the same idea between this kind of visible and invisible, as we saw in other work. These are portraits, mainly identity photos, photo portraits that I gathered in the beginning of the second Intifada, where I spent about 1 year in Gaza, and it was the beginning of the second Intifada, and every day they were about, on average, about 10-15 people killed, most of them young. They just go to the border where soldiers are far, at least 1 or 2 kilometers, and they throw stones. Most of them do not even reach the other side of the border, but they shot. The soldiers reply with real bullets. And I wanted to express this, the heavens of this loss, of this all these people disappear. So I started to collect these portraits. I scanned them, and the final result are portraits, silk screen portraits on with shiny ink on matte background. So when you are in front of this wall, some of portraits, as you see here, they are kind of negative pictures, or sometimes some places are totally dark. But when you move, you should move, and according to the source of light, they become positive. They become black and white. So you should keep moving. Some appear and others disappear according to the light and according to your position, physical position from the.
Are these all people who died in the Intifada? Is that?
It's about maybe I had to do 170, 180 portraits, but then I had to stop because they are until now they are all each day people die. So it was not just was not about numbers, just about.
But these are every individual in these pictures have died.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah, this is what a series I started in between 2005 2006, in which I document the portraits of owners of shops in Gaza, different places of work and commerce like pharmacies, butchers, cafe, restaurants, where we have this tradition to hang the father, the owner of the place on the shelves or behind the counter, kind of paying a tribute to him or keeping his memory in the place that he created, because most of the time they are the kids, his sons, who take the rule. They continue to run the place. And what interested me in this work is this kind of photo in the photo, and all these elements around the photo, and how they could visually they can give kind of lecture, kind of understanding of the reality, of the presence of people, although they are kind of spontaneous collage or arrangements, and also this ambiguity between this kind of ambiguous border between collective and family space. Because these shops are open to the street, you can enter and go out. But sometimes when you are inside, sometimes you have the feeling to be in a family space, because the photo on the wall is the father photo, people who are looking at the sons, and all of these shops carry the name of the family. So you see, I go to I don't know, Abu Muhammad shop, I go to, it's not like in supermarket, you just go into the cash, you pay, and sometimes you don't even talk to anybody. You have to, an exchange is necessary, you know each other.
This work seems to mark, or compared to everything we've seen before, two departures. It's like real documentary photography, which you haven't, nothing else you showed is in the documentary.
I don't know, I don't know, I maybe don't like to put strict classifications, they are documentary or not. When I did them, I just did them without thinking that they are documentary or not.
For those of us in the photo
but maybe,
world,
maybe yeah, the way I think it is sure that I have been how we said influenced by the documentary current or style in photography, and because it's maybe it's also my way of being. It's not being present and just to give things for the viewer to be seen.
With the other departure, and it's related to these being documentary pictures, instead of dealing with the kind of macro geopolitical issue, the politics or the issues of conflict, these are sort of the opposite. They're the inside life
Yeah, because in my work, it also deals with life issues, with people and their life. Because many people think that my work is related to Palestine and politics, etc., etc. It is, of course, but it's not political speech, and I do as much as I can that my work does not become only or just political speech. I try to bring politics to my work and not.
You said earlier
it's not an illustration of situation or political situation. So it is about life. It's about people, about their presence. Because as we have maybe we discussed about, we talked about that before, that wars and suffering and all this should have end someday. But what remains is life, is people, how they do in their life.
But you also said when we were talking earlier how important it was for you to communicate about the kind of that there is a daily life, even in the middle of conflict. There's an ordinary.
Because unfortunately, what we receive as images, especially in Western Europe and America, about this part of the world is only war, suffering, killing, blood, destruction, etc. All this exists, of course, and it continues, unfortunately. But beside this, there is also life. People getting married, they fall in love, they try to work when they have the possibility. The children go to school, of course, in very, very tough and difficult conditions, but they continue to live. And even me as a Palestinian, when I had the possibility to go to Gaza, I have been always struck how people really keep living, keep believing, keep hooked on life.
We've talked for about 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe we just talk for another 5 minutes and then open it up for some more discussion.
These are body of work, group of pictures that I thought I have done in Gaza between 1999 and 2006, the year after which it became difficult for me to go to Gaza, and I've done them without any pretension to do artwork. They are photographs that I do in a very spontaneous way, and only just documenting this moment I spent in Gaza.
These are your nephews?
These are nephews who are now big. Some of them get married, some, they totally change. So I divided, in 2008 I had to expose these photos, so I have been obliged somehow to conceptualize them or to make kind of articulation. So I divided them in 4 themes. One, I call it my place, these pictures in my family space or environment. Others about the city, photos taken in the city. Others about the seashore and the border. These photos I take on the borders, right?
Did you exhibit these as a show, or is this just more like?
They have been exhibited in France for the first time on Pont des Arts. It was a duo exhibition with Rola Halawani, another Palestinian photographer who comes mostly from reportage. She was a reporter.
And this is another series.
This is part of this series, the borders, where I crossed the borders, and most of them has been done in 2003, 2004, where I have been stuck on the borders for a few days with other people, about maybe 2,000 people between Gaza and Egypt.
Just to understand that, why are you stuck?
Because you cannot use anymore the airport in Tel Aviv since 2000, when the second Intifada starts, and Egypt unfortunately participated in the siege of Gaza with the Israelis. So until when these photos I have done, it was 2003, the borders from Gaza side, they have been controlled by the Israeli forces. So they closed the borders, and we have, if you come to from France to Gaza, you have to wait on the Egyptian
have to go
side.
via Egypt. You have no other choice.
In fact, you arrive to the airport in Cairo, and you are not allowed to go in Cairo. You are not allowed to go out of the airport. So you are kept in this room under the airport, in a place under the airport. I believe it has been reserved for luggage or animals even. Some people said they were putting animals there. And
so you said that when you go into Gaza, you know you're going to have to spend 4 days under the airport.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah. Okay. In fact, most of the time you spend in the no man's land between Gaza and in the airport. You spend one night only, because if you arrive in the afternoon, you cannot reach the border, because it's about 6 hours or 7 crossing the desert. So they keep you until the next day early, very early, about 5-6 o'clock. And there is a bus who come with a policeman, Egyptian policeman. They take us in this bus until the borders. And the waiting could be for days, sometimes weeks, and even months, as happened in 2006 when one Israeli soldier has been kidnapped by Hermès. Many people have been stuck for at least 1-2 months. And most of them died in this no man's land.
Is this because everybody is held because they're traveling on Palestinian travel documents? I mean, or anybody says they're on their way to Gaza?
In fact, these kind of consequences, one of consequences of the complications of the situation, being under occupation, not having the possibility of autodetermination, many things. So, for example, before having Palestinian passport issued according to the Oslo agreements between Israel and Palestine, I had a kind of laissez-passer, kind of travel document for people in Gaza and West Bank, and even East Jerusalem, delivered by the Israeli military administration, and available only for 1 year. You have to renew it each year. And in the case identity, it has been written undefined. And I have one of these. I kept it. So then you have the Palestinian passport. The Palestinian passport is not better, you know. You have they even took out the case identity. It doesn't exist in it to avoid telling Palestinian or not Palestinian. You have only in the passport it's written Palestinian Authority, so we know that you are Palestinian. But in fact, it has no. It's not more we don't have more advantages than laissez-passer.
But the laissez-passer, you can travel to France.
If you have
Italy,
visa, no, you need visa. Yeah, you need visa. And sorry, maybe I don't want to take more time, but one anecdote about this document. I was renewing it year after year, about maybe 4 or 5 times, before I get the chance to leave, to go. The first time I went to Italy in 1993, and while I am in the line, when I arrived to the airport in Rome, I was looking to my passport, and I think it was the first time I noticed this case where it was written undefined, and I was like panicked, you know. I was like sure that they will refuse me, they will not allow me to enter. And what was shocking for me that they are policemen. I don't know how he recognized me as Palestinian or not making part of the other passengers.
Where are we now? We're in Italy.
Yeah, 93.
Arrived in Italy.
Yeah, I came with a lion because at that time it was the only way to travel, to go to Tel Aviv and take a lion to travel. So he put me out with another Palestinian. I discovered we took together, so we were Palestinian, and I was struck that they let me in, and they didn't say anything about this undefined identity. So it was kind of, everybody was okay about it. This was harder for me than the fact itself that you are in the passport, you are undefined.
Can we jump just, because I think we should not just jump to the work on the walls.
Yes.
You didn't have any slides from this work, but can you introduce what, for everybody, what this exhibition is and what ideas you've explored?
Yeah. In fact, for this commission, for this project, I proposed to retrace the history of my cousins, very close cousins who left Gaza, going through Cairo, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, etc., and very long journey until California and Florida. These cousins I knew only when I was a kid, about 5-6 years old, when they were when they came to Gaza to visit in summer, to visit family. These are my own only souvenir of them, and I didn't see them since. Maybe Ahmad, we see here in these photographs. I saw him in '99, and that's it. Others like Khatra, maybe 30 years I never saw her. I saw her strangely few months before I started the project. She was on visit to France, to Paris with her neighbors, and she called me and we met. But I never met her since I was a child. Subhi, I remember him, when I was kid. Kamal too.
So the opportunity that the commission presented was something you wanted to do anyway.
Yes.
Explore your American culture.
Exactly.
Meet and get to know your American culture.
Kamal, for example, arrived to California in 68. I'm born in 66, so when he arrived to America, I was having 2 years. Subhi, he arrived in 81. Samir, who is the nephew of Kamal and Subhi, who is doctor too. Kamal is doctor. Subhi, dentist. Samir, the nephew, is dentist too. And then I met Akram, who is a son of my cousin. So he's the second cousin. I didn't accept to meet him then. I expect to meet him. I didn't knew that he's living also in California. And then there's Ahmad, who is living in Florida, who has totally another life from the others. He kind of having a different trajectory or journey from the others. Although he also he has been in many countries, and he ended up in Florida. He has grocery in a very popular quarter where live majority of Afro-American people. Very difficult quarter, it's known by crime, drugs, etc. This area, and maybe it is the only grocery in the quarter. So I arrived to Florida. I did two travels, going first to Florida and then California. The first travel about 1 month, the second one about 1 month and a half, where I lived with my cousins because in their houses, and I share with them the daily life, because in our culture it is no way that you go in a hotel or you are with the family. You should be with the family, and the tradition is to be in the elder of the family. So in California, I was living in Subhi's house, and yeah.
I mean, there's lots of layers to the work. your story, of piecing your own family history and reflections upon the Gazan life that you all shared at one point but left. It's really a story about America and about immigration to America, where obviously your uncle, who ended up running a grocery store, lives in a poor Floridian area, is very different from your very successful uncles, cousins in California, who are kind of models of an immigration success story.
Exactly.
In
I,
a way.
Besides that, I wanted also to explore how they live this situation, being Palestinians and living in America, how they think themselves in terms of identity. Are they American? Are they Palestinians? What remains of their culture? How they, what connections they kept with Palestine? How they deal with this in their daily life? And also, I discovered somehow it's also because I may be living in the same situation, having left Palestine and living now in Europe, and I wanted to maybe to make a kind of to see how others live this situation, how they deal with it.
What do you conclude at this point?
It's there's many paradoxes, in fact, and there is this, and I think we share many points, and there are many points in common. That this desire to be, I don't know if I can call it to be assimilated, but to be to have this possibility to live in the new place where you choose to be. And this desire, this obsession to be connected also to your roots, to your own culture, to your home, etc., etc. So this zone also in between these two parts of each of us, I wanted to capture this in between.
I think that is the great success of this work and of the book, is you do find your way into those issues and those thoughts and the in-between place and the paradoxes.
Yeah, and also the fact that I am working with do work about people who are supposed who are my family, but at the same time they are strangers. I knew them when I was kid, but I don't. I start now. I know more. I know more now about them, about their life. We share time together. I know better now. While working on the project, I was still not. How is it? Sometimes it's kind of schizophrenic situation, because you see the family, you are with the family, but these people somehow they are strangers for you, and the borders between both, because you feel you are outsider, but you are also insider. You are part of the family, but you are observing the family and doing good. And sometimes it was hard to deal with those two. And sometimes I really didn't know if I have to play the photographer, the artist who's coming to make work about his family, or just to forget about it and live this moment being in family. It was
happily for us, you made work, you made pictures. And the drawings are a really poignant element, these references back to what looks like, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, from your childhood, it was kind of an idyllic life. You had a nice home near the beach, it was a very beautiful courtyard,
in
things
fact,
like that.
even the drawings, they have different levels. One I did prior to my departure to US, in order to connect to the project, and they are mostly about my cousins, my memories of them when they came to Gaza, kind of pictures that could have been done at that time, but they haven't been done. So I tried to do them through drawings. Some of them I did later, they are inspired. No, others, I try to imagine them today, how they look like, in some portraits or some situations, how they live. Other drawings has been done while I'm working on the projects, inspired by the projects. Kind of these drawings where we see suitcases, jet lag with these plane windows, etc. I thought even some of them that I can maybe materialize in kind of sculptures or installation, but I prefer finally keeping them as drawings. The drawing used with the flags, etc. Thank you.
Does anybody have any? Yes.
Most fascinated with the Egyptian border to Gaza and how one goes from Egypt to Gaza. How is the treatment when it goes up to date? What kind of treatment do you receive from the Egyptian government or Egyptian authorities?
In fact, there is kind of it is tough. It is tough, but I think it's kind of maybe not made purpose, because I think even Egyptians, they are not treated better than Palestinians who are crossing the borders. It's kind of, I'm just looking about the world, uncareless, you know. It's way to deal with the things. It's sometimes it's look like surrealistic, and you think it could have been easier to do this, and not in this way, but some kind of behavior, some situations, you just can't find explanation. You know, I think the politics would like that Palestinians go through this, because it's part of Russia that's done on them since 1848 to give up, to accept anything. And when you talk with the Egyptians, they get under, unfortunately, the regular person, people, they are not, they don't have enough knowledge about the situation. But when you talk with people who read or think, and they are, they are not happy with it. They are not. But this is they don't have any power with it. The politics decide, the government, the Egyptian authorities decide this, that it should happen in this way. And it's just humiliating. The most hard thing in this situation is the humiliation. More than you are just crossing borders in very difficult conditions. Of course, you are tired, you have the stress, and you don't, while you are in the no man's land, you don't know even when you are going to cross, when you are going to enter, and once you enter Gaza, when you will be able to get out. All these questions, not easy to deal with all the time, but the most hard thing is the humiliation. You are Palestinian, we share the same language. One day in history, there were no even borders. Gaza and Egypt, Syria, I don't know, Lebanon, people were going anytime, crossing the borders, which was not real borders, you know. And today, how each country, although these borders has been imposed by the Western powers. We know what happened in the beginning of 20th century, how Europe, France and England, they divided the Arab world and they put these borders. It's not even us who decided these borders, but we do, unfortunately, these Arab countries do their effort to keep these borders like even between Arab countries. I hope I answered your question.
Yes.
As an American who's married into a Palestinian family, I've learned how hard it is for Americans like me to understand really what blockade means. Gaza is really closed. You cannot go there and they can't get out. When bombs fall on them, they can't run away. If they swim in the sea, they get shot. They're blockaded. But what's more interesting to me is that the story that you're telling about this cousin in this place, and this cousin in that place, and this cousin in that place, that's every single Palestinian story. That's not like a unique story. That's everybody's story. And so I wondered whether when you went and met your cousins, who, for an American, a cousin is a distant relative, but for Palestinians, it's a very close relative. These are people you would have seen every single day in Gaza. So I wonder if seeing them all spread out like that, whether it was a happy thing or was it a sad thing, was to acknowledge and document the extent to which Israel has been successful in breaking the two most important things to Palestinians, the connection to the land and the connection to the family. I just wondered if it was happy or sad.
Oh, it was very confusing for me. Comment on dit bouleversant? Bouleversant, we said in French. And because, as I said before, you are with people who is part of you, your family, but they are strangers at the same time. And I was happy, but I was sad at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. It was sometimes I didn't know how to deal with that, because some of them, even what I said in the book, when I observed them, their faces, bodies, how they behave, how they talk, they remind me people from Gaza. For example, Ahmed, he reminded me my aunt, her mother, his mother, my father, by similarity, by, I don't know, genealogic aspects, and it was confusing for me, disturbing for me, especially thinking about died people through people who's living. Subhi, he reminds me his brother. They are very similar. They are really very close physically. And also the fact that I don't see my own family, my mother, my sisters, brothers since many years, and I am now with the family, but it's not my very close family. And in the daily life, many situations were reminding me at every moment Gaza and my family, and the fact maybe making it harder, the fact, or stronger, the fact I realized even stronger, the fact that I really couldn't go. I can't go. Maybe this is the part which was most difficult. And also, this position of outsider, it was like my family members, everyone felt free and comfortable to tell me his story. So I was kind of recipient of the whole story, all the family and all these people. And I tried to not, how we said, involve my story. I stayed kind of just here and look.
Can I ask you something? Social media, I mean, obviously it drove in many ways the revolution in Egypt, and it connects everybody in an extraordinary way. So are your relatives who are in Gaza, are they able to make social media and
yes.
Out? So has that contributed to a stronger sense of community out of curiosity?
Of course, they are all connected. For example, all my nephew, my cousins, all of them has Facebook account. They have Instagram, WhatsApp. Unfortunately, because of cut of electricity, kind of all the time, we have only 3 or 4 hours of electricity. Then they don't have, they cannot communicate. But when they have, we are all the time in contact through Facebook. I have many likes for the exhibition since most of them from the family nephews, and some of them who was born while I'm in France. My nephew and sons of nephew, I don't know even them. I never seen them. They are friends of me on Facebook. I knew that they're Batniji, they're son of, but I don't know them.
A sort of related question, and you were telling me a little bit before, but what is the state of art and photography in Gaza and the West Bank? I mean, are you quite unusual as an artist working this way, or are there many people driven to make work, and are they able to make work in Gaza?
In fact, there is a lot of movement, art movement in Palestine, of energy, of synergy, you can say, since let's say since the 80s, since mostly it has been all the time exhibitions, etc. But for example, the first art studies, people who can start in university, it was the year when I studied in '85 in Naples. Before that, there were no art studies, and for example, photography and video was not known until maybe 2000. I remember the first time I exhibited video and photography course in Gaza. Nobody at that time was even considering photography as artwork.
Are there art spaces in Gaza today?
Now there is no gallery, commercial gallery, but we have many spaces who offer space for artists to work, to exhibit their work, like the YMCA, where for many years as a volunteer I did with other colleagues and with other friend artists who are friends. We gave workshops and drawings and paintings as volunteer. We organized exhibitions, short workshops. We hosted people, artists, and people from different domains. We worked with them. And this continues, and even more today. And we have more and more artists, young artists, who are selecting or choosing photography and video as main medium for.
Yes.
I guess I was a little bit late. Maybe you mentioned that. I think the exhibition is very timely, especially considering the Muslim ban, all this backlash against refugees. I wonder, your family, first part of the question, are they officially they are refugees or they are immigrants?
Immigrants.
Because a lot of Palestinians are still living with the refugee status.
Exactly.
In a lot of, especially in Lebanon, in Syria, and in I think Jordan.
Even in Palestine, what remains in Palestine.
Right. So because they have refugee papers, but here they are immigrants.
They are immigrants,
yes, right.
because they choose to leave. Kamal, all of them, especially those who are living in California, they had quite the same trajectory. They studied in Cairo, they get a diploma in medicine in Cairo, then they went to Saudi Arabia or Abu Dhabi to earn some money, which many Palestinians, before the Gulf War and what happened in Iraq, even for Egyptians and many countries in Arab world, people went to Gulf because there is money, they need workers, they need teachers, especially Palestinians. They were most of them teachers, or like Subhi was teaching and studying at the same time when he was in Abu Dhabi, or Saudi Arabia. Khadra was teaching too. And then Kamal was kind of the first one who arrived, and he gave the example to Subhi to follow him and to immigrate to the United States. It was also mostly in this period of economic migration to the United States, where many people from the world following this American dream.
They got the points.
Yeah.
But the second part of the question is this: in the U.S., is the the approach to Palestine is very, very problematic. Even you consider what people, even they call themselves leftists, right? Even what is the head of the Democrats Party, Schumer, like last week, 2 weeks ago, was talking about in IPAC, one of the IPAC meetings, which is extreme. He's a fundamentalist essentially. And if you look at in New York City, it's funny that Aperture, I think, did a good job, like taking kind of a risk in a way, presenting your work, because not many museums are even touching it because of the trustees and all these things. There's this. It's very. I wonder how you, when you were traveling around the U.S.
If I understand the question, when I arrived, I didn't have problems. I arrived exactly in the spirit about with travel ban, etc., etc. And I tried to evoke this even with my cousins through interviews I did with them. How they think about the situation, if they have any problems being Palestinians living in America, if they have how they feel they feel strangers, they feel or how the American society how they are considered. It was hard to especially in the beginning. I think some of the interviews I did 3 or 4 times because it was hard to let them talk really in a spontaneous way. Especially those of California, they tried to give very soft image, if I can say this, or that they succeeded in their career, they are part of the American. Of course,
they're members of the Rotary Club.
Yeah.
They're members of the Rotary Club.
Rotary?
Aren't they members of the Rotary Club?
Rotary Club? No.
Oh, they're not.
But
They're very.
They have their picture taken with George, the Bush family. One.
He even.
I found it really interesting how they were, feeling right to the vote.
He even voted Trump.
Right.
He voted, and he said, he said that. But this is also part of the confusion I have to deal with, because each one of them is totally another vision of world, of politics, of what is happening. But mainly when I did start recording, they said they are trying to give a formal statement about the situation. Everything is okay. We are happy. We are very integrated. And we switch off the recording. They start to talk about things like normal, they say things. And I said, why didn't you say this in the interview? You have to record again, but then again.
That must also be part of a broader preoccupation. I mean, for all Muslims in America, I would imagine at this time, following 9/11, etc., to position yourself carefully.
It's not easy. Yeah, I think they were afraid or anxious about they wanted to show that they are, thankful to America to give them this opportunity, etc., and they are integrated, etc. But as I said, each one has totally a different position. You have Kamal, who has voted Trump. He is considering that when he talks about Palestine, Israel, he is talking kind of symmetrical terms, which sometimes was not easy. So we had some kind of and from the other side, you have Akram, who is a doctor. He has a very comfortable lifestyle, etc. But he's very, he's very obsessed with the idea of roots, Islam, Palestine. He put his children in Islamic school. He is teaching the Quran, Arabic language.
And another completely different story from Florida, where I think your cousins' children consider themselves
totally another story
in terms of identity.
Israel.
Maybe one last question.
Well, it is actually about Ahmed. When I look at the exhibition, there is distance between the subject and you until you arrive at Ahmed. With Ahmed, it is much more intimate.
Yeah.
So how is that relation? Like what?
I have to say maybe Ahmed, I knew him more than others. He came to Gaza since I was a kid, maybe at least twice, and even being far from each other, we had a chance to discuss through telephone, etc. And he's very close. All of them, they are close cousins. His mom is the sister of my brother, of my father. Sorry. And he, I can say that the degree of interaction was not the same with the whole cousins. With him, it was more strong than the others, maybe. I spent more time with him. In California, I had 4 cousins. I have 4 cousins, and I have to stay a few days in each one home, and it was difficult. I realized later that I could have done only work about Ahmed himself, because his life in itself, only him, is a story, you know. So, and the life in the grocery and his way of life, his journey has always entered me. He could be, I don't know how to. Yeah, I spent days with him in the grocery, observing him, how he deal with the customers, and his way or his behavior in the grocery, and how is he at home, and we had more time to be together than the others. While in California, for example, most of my cousins were working the whole day. I only see them in the morning when they leave to work, and in the evening, and in the weekend. And with Ahmed, I could go with him in the grocery. We go around in the city, etc.
This is a really compelling piece of work, and I hope people will spend time with it, because it's really it reveals so many things when you spend time, and this has been really fascinating. And thank you.
Thank you very much.